This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Harry's. For guys like you who want a great shave experience at a fraction of what you're paying. Go to harrys.com and get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code WhatTheTech when you check out. And by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Andrew and enter promo code Andrew at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
What the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by the one, the only, the newly haircutted Paul Thurrott.
Shorn, I think, is the word you're looking for.
You look very nice. I was complimenting Paul on his beautiful hairline.
Wow.
And I said,
my
it's not
beautiful
too
receding
often.
hairline.
It's not too often that a man tells you, you know what, that's a nice hairline that you have right there.
It's true.
You should be very proud of it, Paul.
Okay.
I'm proud of you for having it.
Wow.
We have so much to talk about today, actually. I'm shocked at the amount of people that are very interested in my MacBook Pro story. Most of the time, I get the Andrew, stop complaining, but a lot of people are they're concerned for me. I think for my mental well-being more than anything else, considering I have the 2 kids now and, you know, everything else happening. They're very, very curious about what happened last week after we finished the show. So we're going to talk about that, obviously. Of course, I want to talk about the Xbox. The Xbox One Xbox One. There's an X now, and there's an S. There's a lot of letters, so we're going to talk about that. A lot of people are confused over this, and I actually had a lot of questions about that, and a whole lot more. But before we do, Paul, Father's Day is around the corner. Did you know that? It's almost Father's Day.
I did, yeah.
It's almost Father's Day, and you know what the perfect gift for Father's Day is? A beautiful, beautiful Father's Day set from Harry's. Get your free trial set, including a razor handle, 5-blade cartridge, and shaving gel if you go to harrys.com/whatthetech. But they also have this amazing, amazing Father's Day set. If I have mine here, where is mine? You know what? I'm not even joking. I think my father stole my Father's Day set.
That is amazing.
He literally stole my Father's Day set, and he said, this is mine. And I thought he was joking, but he took it. The limited edition Father's Day shaving set comes with the Storm Gray razor, because we know that gray is in, just like my MacBook Pro right here. It's about the same color, actually. The Storm Gray razor handle, the chrome razor stand, foaming gel, 3 replacement blades, and the travel cover. Plus, it comes in a beautiful, sleek, giftable box that just makes it a little bit better. It just makes it even better than it is. And these things are great. The blades are phenomenal. 100% quality guarantee, by the way. Fully refund if you're not happy. Additionally, they're $2 a blade compared to generally about $4, $4.25 for the blade set. But, guys, there's still time. You could still get this in time for Father's Day. Here's the great deal. You get $5 off one of their shaving sets for Father's Day, which includes the limited edition Father's Day set. So here's the deal. $5 off the shaving set if you go to harrys.com/whatthetech. harrys.com/whatthetech. I want to thank them for supporting the show. And also, let them know how happy you are with your Harry's razor, because I always tell them how great mine is. Let's talk about my MacBook, and let's get this out of the way, Paul.
Yes.
So I called you, and you did not really understand, because I had no service when I was calling you for whatever reason. Right. You know what's really funny? I was Skyping you. I have to find out. I think I got to blow away this iPhone that I have here, and I got to start over, because if I call you over the LTE, like with LTE calling, or if I use Skype, it's terrible. I mean, the quality is terrible. So I don't know if it's like switching over to LTE or staying on Wi-Fi or what, but something is up. So I got to blow this away. But I called Paul immediately when it happened. The last we left you on this weekly episodic saga was that my MacBook Pro that I had replaced, right? The logic board was replaced. It started going bad. I lost the left side speaker, then I lost the right side speaker, and I was starting to have graphic problems again. So I went into Apple, And I called them, I made an appointment, I went into them, and they told me that they can no longer fix it. And it is out of their hands, and they have to send it to Apple for an extensive test.
Yeah.
Now, and I said, okay, so what happens now? And they said, were you going to send it to them? I said, when do I get it back? They said about 2 weeks.
So what kind of a loaner laptop did they offer you?
Oh, none. None. The offer, once again, was you could purchase a new MacBook Pro and we'll extend the return policy for you. So essentially what they're doing is they're borrowing money from me. I'm a bank. I'm taking a MacBook as collateral for the money that I'm loaning them, and then I return the MacBook once they refund me the money. When they return my item, and I said, no, that's not going to work, guys. And they said, well, what do you want? I said, I want a new laptop. And I went over it with them, and there was one manager that was astonished by my patience, actually. And he said, you know what we're going to do? We just got the new 2017 models in. I'm just going to give you one. And he goes, listen, man, I feel so bad. Can I give you the wireless earpods also?
Wow.
So I go, yeah. And he handed me the wireless earpods and the pen.
The pen.
The pen for the iPad Pro.
Oh, the pencil.
Yeah, the pencil. Yeah, the pencil.
Yeah.
So they gave me a brand new MacBook Pro, a 2017 model. So I have to tell you, I've been using it for a week. It's the same thing. I mean, it's exactly the same exact machine. Except there are changes, minor changes to the logic board. I spoke to a friend that opens these things up for a living, and he said that there were changes to the way that some of the capacitors were and stuff like that. So maybe they realized that there was a problem.
It's like they're quietly sweeping a problem into the,
Listen, I'm not going to accuse them of anything, but 4 MacBooks, 4.
Oh, I'll do it.
Okay. Yeah, you could. I mean, listen, I don't know.
They aren't the first company that's had problems with Skylake processors.
Yeah, so there was a change. But the other major change, Paul, is the keyboard. This thing feels really good. Better than.
So apparently they upgraded the keyboard on the normal MacBook as well to match that keyboard.
To match this.
I thought the one you had was great. I actually really liked it. It
wasn't
loud,
bad. You know. Okay, but do you know what the problem was? You used it day one.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I first initially used it, and I think this is something, and this is something that could go across the board in the PC market. When I first used the keyboard, it felt really firm. Like it felt good, but it was loud. And we were joking about a friend of ours from HP was there. And we were joking about the keyboard, Right.
And
it was really loud, but it's fine because it still felt good. And I was like, I'm kind of surprised because people complain about this. After about a month of using it, it starts loosening up a little bit, like the little chiclets, like the side-to-side action. And when you hit it, so like I have a tendency to hit the A really lightly on the corner. I don't hit it on the top. It's just the way that my hand falls on this thing. And it doesn't register it when I hit it on the corner.
I could have sworn they did a nice demonstration explaining why this new kind of keyboard prevented that problem from happening.
Yeah, well, it happened. This one feels a lot more like the traditional keyboard because it still has the butterfly thing underneath.
Yeah.
It feels really good. It feels. Test 1, 2, 3 says it felt really firm. That's what she said.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was firm and loud, and then over time it got squishy and quiet.
Yeah. So I have the new one now, and let's see what happens. It's still way too early to tell. It's 6 days.
Yeah. How many days? 6 days?
6 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one started falling apart within 2 weeks. So, I don't know. Let's see what happens. But it is faster. The graphic card is better. It's new, and I think that's part of the problem. I do think some of it was. They said something was loose on the logic board with the first one, but I also do think there was a GPU problem because they do that weird handoff between the GPUs, right? And I think what was happening and what they were telling me was that the firmware couldn't communicate with the GPU to tell it to switch.
Oh.
If that's how it works, that's what I understood because I'm not entirely sure what exactly was falling apart. So the firmware would lock up and cause the kernel panics.
I see.
And they don't know if it's because something was off or if it was just the way that it was designed. But now we have two new video cards and a new processor. So let's see what happens.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if this fixed it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, let's see.
Well, think about it. Why?
Well,
Why on earth would they have released that thing then and then replaced it 6 months later?
You know,
They usually
that's what I
go
was
years
saying.
and years between
They
releases.
do go years and years. Yeah, look at the MacBook Pro, right? The 2012 MacBook Pro was probably the last major change compared to this one.
Yeah.
You know, and they would do. I mean, they wouldn't even update the processor every generation, did they? No,
I don't.
No, they
pay
wouldn't.
attention to it, but yeah, probably
They were
not.
always behind, and now they're up to date with the processor. There's an obvious reason, and
Yeah.
you know, everybody criticized Microsoft when they didn't go to Skylake quick enough.
To Kaby Lake.
To Kaby Lake, yeah, to Kaby Lake. Well, I don't know. They went to Kaby Lake here, so let's see.
Yeah.
Maybe they learned from Microsoft's mistake, or maybe not.
Well, I mean, Microsoft just went to Kaby Lake this week.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
same thing.
that's what I'm saying. Maybe they learned from Microsoft's mistake with
Yes.
this, you know?
Well, maybe, but they still released the Skylake part last year.
Last year, yeah. After knowing that it has problems.
Yeah.
You know, it could have just been too late, you know? It could have just been too late. But listen, let's see what happens with this, right? So now I have a brand new 2017 model that I have there's no excuse why this one should fail now.
Oh, careful.
Yeah. How you been, Paul? That was a quick update. I just wanted to give a quick update on this.
I'm okay. A little stressed, you know.
A little stressed
House
with
stuff.
the move. I know. Let's talk about the Xbox. They announced it on Sunday.
Right. I got to reset my brain here because it feels like it was a million years ago.
Yeah. So what do we know? Well, we know everything, but what do you think? I want your before I give you mine.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is great. I think it's awesome that they finally have technological superiority over PlayStation. They never have, or if they did, the last time was original Xbox, so 2001. The price point is right for what it is, right? That we learned today or yesterday, you know, they're not making money on this thing. They never make money on hardware. I don't think any of the console makers do, except for perhaps Nintendo. So they're selling the thing at a loss. I mean, this is an expensive device, but that's what happens. You're leapfrogging. They do have what I consider to be the best transition between consoles in the sense that for a lot less money, you can get a still incredible, capable Xbox One S that still works in 4K, not for games, but for entertainment. Still provides HDR capabilities, fantastic. So if you have that 4K set or you're thinking about upgrading, you know, this is still a great console to get. And because it's forwards compatible with everything coming for the Xbox One X, you know, it's an investment of sorts. Also very smart that they're expanding the Xbox One ecosystem to include the PC. And it's not all the games, obviously, but there's a pretty good selection of Xbox Play Anywhere games that work across the two platforms, which is also excellent. And they've done a lot to kind of expand the Xbox ecosystem through things like the Xbox Game Pass recently, which I also think adds value. And now there's not a rumor, more like a hint, you know, from Microsoft that they are at least looking at bringing Xbox backward compatibility
To the original.
which currently provides 360 games on Xbox One, but will someday include original Xbox games. Might be bringing that to the PC.
Yeah.
So I think when you add that all up, you have the makings of a really smart strategy. Like, it seems pretty solid to me. Now, I assume you're going to tear that to shreds.
No, I'm not at all. No, I'm very excited for it. The thing that people were really critical on was the price point.
Right. But
$500. But
Yeah.
Here's my question, okay? The Xbox One S is on the market, correct? And it's not going away.
Right.
So now you have another Xbox on the market.
That's right.
The Xbox One S is cheaper. The Xbox One X is more expensive. So why the criticism on the price point? I'm curious.
So, look, you know from your dealings with the outside world
Yes.
that the tech world in general is a hellhole of negativity, right? And whether it's comments for videos or articles or Twitter or whatever it is, that everyone has a stage, and apparently everyone has decided that their stage is going to host a tragic comedy in which they make fun of everything and hate everything and whatever. Within the tech world, though, there are specific subsets, and they're all terrible in their own way. But I actually think the video game world is kind of special in that it is and can be especially terrible, you know? And some of the nonsensical baloney that I hear from gamers is disheartening, you know, and it's one of the last big holdouts of like platform wars where there are like Xbox guys and PlayStation guys and they hate each other. And then there are Nintendo children because those people are obviously all.
Listen, I'm a Nintendo. I love the Nintendo. You know how many people I know?
No,
that
I do too. I'm not.
One?
I'm describing it from their point of view. I'm not. I love that the Nintendo Switch exists. I love that Nintendo is the Disney of video games. I really like what they're doing. It's not, you know, for me, but there you go. That's the difference between me and a typical gamer or fanboy. Like I appreciate them for what they are. But when you look at things like the Xbox, for example, a lot of people are still bitching and moaning about how Microsoft launched this thing, which I will remind you was like 3.5 years ago, guys. Like, get over it. Actually, it was 4 years ago. You know, it's like people have such long memories about terrible things. You know, the current Xbox team is amazing. They're doing all the right things. They're saying all the right things. I mean, they're just it's night and day between now and 4 years ago. There are things like, well, Xbox doesn't have any platform exclusives because a lot of their first party titles, especially, are Xbox Play Anywhere, meaning they'll work on Windows 10 as well as Xbox. Well, they're not Xbox exclusives. These will work on Windows. And it's like, guys, seriously, you got to get over this kind of mentality where platform exclusives are so exclusive that you can't even share them with other devices in your own ecosystem. Like the mentality there is insane to me because anything that makes this more accessible is better. And look, I'm probably not going to play a Call of Duty game on my Surface Pro tablet, but there are lots of games like those Telltale games, like the Walking Dead games or Batman or whatever, that will work fine across those kinds of devices. And if at home, I can play them on my big screen. And if I'm on the road, like I'm going to be next week, I can play them on my laptop or whatever. I mean, why wouldn't you want that? I find the constant negativity to be tiring. There's also this thing, and again, this is like one of those things you kind of walk into without even really understanding it, but there's this real bias against anyone talking about hardware at E3, which is the big industry trade event for video games. That these events, for some reason, because someone wrote a rule one day, I guess, or whatever, that they should only be about games, not about the hardware in which the games run. And that's bullshit. Like that's crazy. And Microsoft, because they work in this industry and they understand it, they have to kind of adhere to these rules. And so they're not going to come out and not talk about the Xbox One X, but they blew through it in like 3 minutes or whatever.
They did,
And then they spent 2.5 hours showing, come on, a series of blisteringly boring video game demos, not because they weren't awesome, not because the games aren't great, not because they didn't look great, but because how can you just sit there and watch, 20 minutes each of just video game gameplay? Like come on. Like
they tend to do that a lot though. Because do you think it's because they got so much crap for concentrating on the hardware and the entertainment side with the Xbox One release, where now they've totally gone backwards, where it's all about gaming and they don't want to discuss anything other than the games?
Well, so there's a couple of things. I mean, one is the gamer lashback or whatever about hardware, right? There's the one thing, but the other thing that you're kind of alluding to, I believe, is the notion of like non-gaming.
Yeah,
Microsoft has spent a lot of time saying, hey, Xbox people spend about 50% of their time not playing games. They're on Netflix, they're on Groove Music or whatever they're doing. They're enjoying entertainment because this console is a hub in your living room and it does all this other stuff. It's like a little supercomputer out there. Why wouldn't it be used for these things?
Yeah.
That drives people insane as well.
Okay, so this is going to sound so stupid, right? Not that it's going to sound stupid, but this discussion has happened since the original Xbox, and I still get this question all the time, and that's, I'm paying $500 for this device. Why can't I have the option of saying, you know what, I want this to be my media device, and I want it to run Windows, and that's it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that particular device is
running Windows.
It's what it is. It's like when you buy an Echo or that.
But that discussion still happens. People are still discussing that, and I have a very simple solution as to why that's not the case. Yeah. They lose money on this device,
right? Right.
Why would they sell you a device if you're not intending on buying games to kind of recoup their costs?
Yeah, no, it's what they're selling essentially is an experience, and that experience is reliable and consistent, performs really well, and is high quality, right? And this is part of that kind of, the gaming world is tough. I mean, there are people who say $500, that's bullshit, blah, 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 that's too much money. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we get these guys who are like, this is a joke. I've got a whatever gaming rig with SLI graphics and blah blah blah, whatever it is.
That's always going to be the case. You're always going to have that. But most people don't want to build a computer. Most people don't want to sit in front of a computer.
Just understand that there's another world. Like in other words, just because you do something a certain way doesn't mean that this thing isn't completely viable.
I'm going to give you a simple explanation as to how people think differently. Right? I watch all my videos on a computer. I love to watch YouTube on my computer. My wife hates it. My wife looks at me and says, how could you keep watching YouTube videos on a computer? I said, this is the experience that I like. It's the same exact thing here. You could either do it this way or do it another way. Neither one of them are wrong.
Yes. Right.
Right.
I mean, you could take entertainment is kind of wonderful for this. Like even now in my kind of stripped down home, there were probably actually probably more than 5. There's several ways I could do something like launch Netflix and show it on my TV, right? There's an app built into the TV. There's an app in the Apple TV. I have a Chromecast, so I could cast Netflix from iOS or Android to the TV that way, right? There's an Xbox attached to that has Netflix built into it. Normally we have a Roku out there. In the past, I've had like an Android TV out there. Those things all have Netflix. I mean, there's all these. I could use a Windows PC and Miracast it up to the TV as well. I mean, it kind of gets, silly in a way. So yeah, I mean, in other words, I think what's more interesting is not so much I prefer it to do it this way, but we have all these different ways here. So which way actually gets used? Like if I look at what my kids are doing, like what do they actually use? And the answer to that question is going to not please somebody because they do it a different way. And at some point you just kind of want to say, you know what, just stop. I'm sorry the world doesn't conform to the way you do things. It's not always going to be like that.
Listen, everything is different for everybody, depending on what device you use. And if it works for you, I always tell people, if it works for you, then it's great for you. Then that's what you should do. If it works for you, that's what you should do. I'm never going to tell someone that they're wrong for using something because I don't use it that way.
Right.
I feel like we've become, especially in technology and everything else around us, right? We need... People want everybody to do what they're doing and the way that they're doing it. And when they're told that there's another way, it's fight or flight, it's that team mentality that drives me crazy, especially in technology. We get it all the time with Android. People get mad that I tell people that I don't like Android. I use it, but I'm not crazy about it. And now that I'm using...
what? If you did use Android, you would get different emails. They'd be from people who would say, like, I don't understand why you don't use the Nova launcher.
I do use Android though. I have it here, and I use this whatever it comes in. Yep. That's just how I use technology, and people don't like it. So, overall, are you pleased with this, with the Xbox One X? Like, what would you have liked to see?
Nothing. It's perfect.
This is it. This is what you want.
I would like to have one right now. It's exactly what I want. I would just say to people, depending on where you are in the scheme of things, does this not make sense? It obviously, if you can afford it or not afford it is the first concern. If you have an Xbox One S today, I'd wait a while because honestly, all the games you buy are going to work on the new console whenever you do get it. Virtually all those games are going to look better and play better when you do upgrade, if you do upgrade. If you have an original Xbox, the situation gets, original Xbox One, the situation's a little more nuanced because you might have paid a lot of money for that. Remember when that thing first came out, it was $500. It has been 4 years. I mean, it's something to think about. I mean, the Xbox One S and the X both support HDR, 4K. The X supports 4K gaming. And has other performance enhancements. You've got some choices, some things to think about. If you've never gone Xbox One at all, choosing which one of those might be based on your view. Like, will you view 4K content on a 4K TV? Then you can choose either one. Do you not have a 4K TV? If your TV breaks tomorrow, are you going to get a 4K TV or are you going to stick with 1080p?
Most likely you're going to buy a 4K TV, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of things to kind of consider, but both of these things are poised for 4K from an entertainment perspective, and the Xbox One X is ready for 4K gaming finally.
Is 4K, in your opinion, do you think 4K is ready right now? Is it the time to buy it?
I bought one last year because I saw a 4K display that we used for the First Ring Daily podcast, and I brought my wife and my daughter in because my son was away at school, and I said, "You need to look at this right now, and then we need to buy one of these things." And it's one of those things that's so impressive when you see it in person, and you have to watch something that supports 4K UHD and HDR, right? And so, for example, the Xbox One S supports those technologies for downloadable videos and streaming videos, but also for what do you call them? Blu-ray discs, right? So I bought a couple of Blu-rays that support HDR and 4K, and like that new Mad Max movie is maybe the most extreme example because it's so saturated and so amazing looking.
Which you show me on the TV.
Yeah, because I have to show everyone who comes to my house what this thing looks like, because once you see that, you will never forget it because it's amazing,
You could buy an HDR TV right now, Vizio, for with HDR, 4K, everything for let's see, $1,000.
Yeah, this is happening right now. I mean, some people are going to, if you have something that works, you're going to stick with it, obviously. But at some point, because nothing is made well today, that full HD screen that you're using right now, whatever size it is eventually going to start coughing up the, whatever, and die. And whenever that happens, it could be tomorrow, it could be 3 years from now, maybe. 4K is next. So if you're into gaming at all, you should look at this. If you're not into gaming, by the way, there are other devices that do 4K, including the apps built into those TVs, including new Roku devices, including Chromecast as a 4K version of Chromecast, not including the Apple TV, but you have to think, come on.
Do you want to hear something interesting? Amazon is no longer selling for Vizios.
Really?
Yeah. They're all third party. Interesting, right?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah. I wonder what it is. Huh. Anybody hear about this? Amazon's not selling Vizio anymore?
You know what? It's not. Amazon has this way of dropping things, right? Like for a little while, they weren't selling like Apple stuff, right?
They still did. They don't sell an Apple TV.
Yeah, but I think that's changing because they just signed that agreement to do Amazon Video and Apple TV, and I bet Apple TV's coming back. So those things go up or down. I mean, Amazon, like anyone, any company that's dominant, will wield its power sometimes to get better prices or a better deal. So it could be related to something like that. That maybe Costco is Vizio's preferred partner, and what Amazon would like is for that not to be the case.
Yeah.
And this is how they do it. So I wouldn't look at anything like that as permanent.
Yeah, interesting. I'm curious about when that started. I had not heard about this, so you learn something new every day. Guys, we have a lot to talk about, actually. I was going to say I have a lot to talk about, but we have a lot to talk about.
Sure.
I don't know if you know this, Paul, but I sleep on a Casper mattress. Did you know that? And you have a Casper mattress.
We do. And
you guys also could have a Casper mattress. If you go to Casper.com/Andrew, you get $50 towards your mattress purchase by entering the promo code Andrew at checkout. It's really funny. I am doing laundry right now as I'm doing the show because I do my show out of my house. And the Casper mattress, this is actually cool. And it's not part of the read, but I do want to talk about how great this is. The cover comes off, and you could actually wash the mattress, like the actual mattress cover that covers the whole thing. And I took it off, and it was amazing to see the inside of this thing and how it's built. And it's exactly what it's latex and memory foam. And the whole build, the buildup of this thing is amazing. But I just took it and I washed it, and it's like a brand new mattress again. It tightens everything up. It's amazing. But the difference between Casper and everybody else is that you get 100 nights with a Casper. You can sleep on this thing. You can try it out because I've made the mistake and I've spent a lot of money on a mattress and I've taken it home and I've slept on it and I've hated it. And that's it. You're done. Once you bring it home, you're not going to want to, it's a pain in the butt to send this thing back. Casper offers free delivery and painless returns within 100 nights, 100-day period. So you can sleep on it and then send it back if it's not for you. You can try it out. You can save an additional $50 off your mattress purchase by going to Casper.com/Andrew and entering the promo code Andrew at checkout. They also have a whole list of things on there. So it's not just a mattress. They do pillow covers. They do foundations. They do dog beds even. They have everything now. Casper.com/Andrew. I want to thank Casper for supporting the show. Paul, let's take a moment and talk about the Surface Pro. You have you did a quick review, the first impression of it, and I want your opinion on it. What do you think compared to the Surface Pro 4?
Yeah, I mean, I've had it for about a week. I've been using it daily. I have not done formal battery life test. I mean, high level, it looks a lot like the last one rather, and I think between that and Microsoft's decision not to call it Surface Pro 5, I think a lot of people have kind of dismissed it as a minor bump. But the truth is, it includes a lot of improvements that I think kind of add up into a fairly major release. And if you have a Surface Pro 4, I mean, it's sort of like the Xbox One conversation. I don't think you should upgrade to this. But if you're on a Surface Pro 3 and you love it and you've been looking for the next thing, this is an incredible upgrade with major, major improvements. But compared to the 4, I mean, the two big ones are about 50% better battery, according to Microsoft. And that's probably true in the sense that their claims for battery are based on streaming video and as a percentage. The real life battery life, I have not done this yet, but I suspect it's going to be somewhere in the 7 to 9 hour range, something like that, is kind of a nice improvement. The performance improvement of the previous version is more modest, but the machine is incredibly quiet, which no Surface device has ever been. That's incredibly notable. I have an i7 with Iris graphics. This thing is whisper quiet. I never hear it. I have to kind of listen for it, and every once in a while you can hear like a very small fan noise. And that I complain about that stuff all the time. That's very notable. It's slightly sleeker and softer and rounder and that kind of thing. But the screen has a very subtle improvement, and it's basically an enhanced color mode that I sort of heard them describe, and I tried to look it up, and I couldn't find any information about it.
I see a button. It says enhance. I'm looking on Thurrott.com, actually. So
eventually what I did was I put it side by side with the Surface Pro 4, and then you see it immediately.
So what is it doing?
So anything displayed on screen, it's most prominent with photos. It's almost like an HDR effect. The new Surface Pro display is more vibrant, but it's also smarter than just more vibrant, right? So I don't have one of these, but I know like a Surface Studio has I think it's actually called a vibrant display mode. And that's sort of like HDR. It just blasts all the colors. It makes everything really saturated. And the problem with something like that is that skin tones in particular become like bright orange or bright pink, and it just doesn't look natural. This mode doesn't do that. In fact, it basically respects skin tone. So if you have things like grass and trees and flowers, like that stuff will look beautiful and vibrant, but the people standing there will look normal. And the basic effect is that it just makes it look better, and while keeping it natural. You can turn it off. I mean, you can toggle it on the fly, but it's one of those things. Once you realize it's happening, you're like, wow, this is actually way better. I'm surprised they didn't talk about this more. Doesn't come with the pen this time, but the pen that you can get separately is significantly better, especially if you use it with this device. The type cover is insignificantly changed. I mean, it's a slightly different key layout. They have some new colors. They have that like a burgundy color, the cobalt blue color, and I want to say platinum might be the other new one, which are new to this year, and also shared on the Surface laptop. But basic same form factor. The other thing they're doing is it tilts back all the way. I don't know. I can't really show you this too effectively, but if you think about like the old Surface Pro 4 probably went back about this far.
Yeah. This one
goes back this far. And so, if that makes sense, on a table, what that means is, you can draw on it very naturally, and it's supported. And if you have a Surface Dial, which, most people don't, but if you have a Surface Dial, it also works on the screen, meaning that when you touch the Surface dial to the screen, a radial menu appears in the software where the dial is, so it knows about it. And that's an interesting tool for graphic artists, especially, or other designers and so forth. So I just think there's a bunch of little things that make this really cool. It's this has always been really solid for me. I had all those problems with Surface Book. I've never had any problems with Surface Pro, or reliability problems. And then this one's, it's the better screen, kind of a friendlier feel to the body, and better battery life, better performance, and it's quiet. And you kind of add that all up, and it's like, this is actually a nice little upgrade.
When are you getting your Surface laptop?
I asked Microsoft about this a lot. So what I'm told is they have limited stock at the moment, and they're working on it. And I'll just say that that's what they told me about Surface Studio, and I'm still waiting on that too. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
So I'm looking at the Surface laptop. Man, this is... I'm looking at I'm comparing it to a MacBook Pro, right? And it's $200 cheaper. That's it.
Yeah.
$200. So it's in the same category, but I'm curious to see what your opinion is going to be when you get the Surface laptop compared to the Surface Pro.
Yeah. Right. For me personally, I prefer the bigger screen, right? So it's got a Surface Book-like screen. It's 13.5 inches. It's a laptop, and honestly, for the types of things I do, I sort of respect the fact that this pen works great for people who handwrite notes, and for artists who want to draw or paint or whatever. I don't really do that stuff, so I kind of do test it. I could test it and say, hey, the latency is awesome, whatever. But for me, I'm a writer, and so hardware keyboard and a hardware keyboard deck with a laptop form factor to me is actually perfect. So. I probably will prefer that one personally, but unlike a gamer, that doesn't prevent me from respecting that other people might like other things.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'm curious because I've seen some people say, is it over for the Surface Pro if the Surface laptop is taking off?
Yeah, I think
the argument would be that it would be over for the Surface. For the Surface Book,
right? More
than the Surface Pro.
Right now, yeah, I think so too. Actually,
why would you buy a Surface Book?
Because you have a lot of money. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's the question I'm curious about. Why would you buy the Surface Book if you want a Surface laptop or you want a Surface Pro? I guess maybe you want both. Maybe you can't make a decision.
Sure.
I don't know. So overall, good improvement, huh?
Again, it's one of those things. If you look at the stats side by side, it's like, okay, whatever. But no, it's a nice upgrade. We certainly waited long enough for it, And there are some legitimate complaints to be made about the lack of a USB-C Thunderbolt 3 port. I feel like I've made those complaints. I don't maybe feel the need to keep.
I have the opposite. I have the opposite complaint.
Well, actually, it's the same complaint. There's a happy middle ground where you can have both. And if they needed to stick with the Surface Connect port on this particular device for some reason, that's fine. There's no reason they couldn't have added the port, right? And on the MacBook, I think, which is what you're alluding to, every other PC maker on earth mixes and matches ports. You can have old and new. It's a pro device. Pros have established workflows, and you should respect the fact that they might need a memory card reader or a whatever legacy device, or that they might actually use the phone that you make and need some way to plug it in without buying yet another cable.
Well, tell that to Apple.
No, it's a legitimate complaint.
Yeah. I think that's the most nutty thing. And when I was talking to the guy from the Apple store, he said that the biggest complaint they get from people is, I can't plug my phone into this thing.
Right. It's crazy.
And do you know what Apple's response is? Well, why do you need to plug it into the laptop?
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no good response to that. That's the equivalent of you're holding it wrong.
Yeah. Why would you want to charge on the laptop? It doesn't do fast charging. Plugging it in for what reason? Buy a dongle. Damn it. Sure. That's their answer. You also did a first impression of the new iPad Pro,
Yeah.
the 10-inch. 10 point what? 10.5?
Yeah.
10.6? What is
This
it?
one's tough. I've spent a good part of this week reading reviews of this device, and I am blown away by how many people have written that this display in particular, but this device changes everything. Once you see this, you can never go back.
Okay.
It makes all other displays look jittery and terrible, and I am literally not seeing that.
Okay. So when they compare what are they comparing that display to?
Any display, because this thing runs at 120 hertz or whatever, which is double the normal refresh rate. It's supposed to make animations and page transitions and scrolling super smooth, so smooth that it makes everything else look stupid. It's a very nice display. I mean, it's great. I use a variety of devices all day long. I mean, I use an iPhone. I have still an iPad mini, which is not new technology by any stretch of the imagination. But, ultimately, I got the 10.5-inch version, right, which replaces the 9.7-inch version, which apparently was the most popular of the iPad Pros.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Without getting into one of those weird arguments about whether an iPad Pro makes sense for productivity work or whatever, right? Because I got the keyboard, I got the pen still or whatever. Okay. The problem I have with this is twofold. Like, as an iPad, which this thing will be for the short term because iOS 10 is terrible and doesn't have any of those productivity enhancements, it's a little too big as a tablet. I'm really used to the iPad mini form factor. I find this to be big and unwieldy and heavy and awkward. Do you
find the 9.7-inch one too big?
I don't have one of those anymore. The reason I went to the mini was because I prefer that. Yeah. So I guess I'd say yes.
I'm the opposite. I prefer the 9.7.
Listen,
and the 10. Yeah.
No, I'm going to spend the next week trying to talk myself into what you're saying. This is me personally, right? It's made a little bit worse because I have the keyboard cover on it. And the keyboard cover is bigger and heavier and weirder, and it's origami, and I don't know, it's a mess. Okay.
It is like
origami. As a consumption device, it's just a little bit. I'm sorry.
It is like origami. It's like
it's a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, okay. Well, fine. But it's a productivity device now, right? And so there are two major problems with this thing as a productivity device. Actually, three major problems. 10.5 inches is too small, right? That's a toy size. Now, I could have gotten the bigger one. I know there's a bigger one. I think that would have made the tablet issue even worse for me. But okay, 10.5 inches too small.
To kind of cut in, I have the bigger one.
Yeah.
It's way too big. Way too big.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, in other words, I actually think both of these things are too awkward. Like, neither one work. It's amazing how maybe this is like confirmation bias for me. But let me just finish the three before I forget. The keyboard cover is too small. It's I have big hands. Okay, fair enough. But I mean, it's like this. It's like it's like playing a little kid's piano. Like, it's so small. It doesn't have backlit keys. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Okay, fine. But the biggest issue fundamentally is the lack of a pointer. And when it comes to productivity work, this actually goes to what I just said about Apple not respecting that people have workflows and yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. We have, whether it's intuitive or the best way to do things or whatever, all of us who've used laptops, all of us have built-in ways of doing things, and we're used to that interaction between the trackpad and the keyboard and how we can select a field with our finger using the mouse cursor and then type in it and then select the next field. And you can't do that on this thing. And it's like getting in a car where like drive makes the car go to neutral and reverse makes the car go forward. And you keep bumping into the, like, what it just doesn't, it's awkward. And I think this is something, it's interesting to me to run into this kind of problem again, because this is actually a topic I've written about a lot in the past. In fact, years ago when I was still at Windows IT Pro, I wrote an article called The Right Tool for the Job. And I said, the world is so busy trying to figure out these hybrid devices that can do two things, but ultimately those things that can do multiple things are never good at everything. They're either really good at one thing and terrible at the others.
They just get it done. Yeah, they just get it done.
So the iPad Pro for me is doubly awkward because it's not a good tablet. Now, that's not fair. It's actually a great tablet. But what I mean by that is it's not a good consumption tablet of the type that I want. It's too big, it's too heavy, it's too awkward. I can't hold it with one hand and read it like I can with an iPad mini. I have to hold it with two hands. It's big. I mean, I like that I can, the text is humongous. It's like reading a large type book in a way. It's goofy, but okay, fine. But as a productivity tablet, it's likewise, or a laptop. It's not. It's not there. And it will be there a little bit more in iOS 11, but it's still not there. So you've got this thing that's actually not perfect for anything. This is for me. I mean, I'm doing that thing I complained about with other people. It is for me. So I'm going to keep testing it. I'm right now actually testing with iOS 11. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to use it on this week away. I'm going to try to take notes with it and maybe even write an article with it or something. I'm going to hate myself, but I'm going to try. But I think I just don't think it's there for this stuff. One thing I can't do till I get down to Pennsylvania again, because my keyboard and everything is not here anymore. But I'll try using it with other keyboards. Like how about use it with a real keyboard? See if that makes a difference. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things. I recognize that the world is changing. The Chromebooks are coming with Android apps. These things are coming. These kind of hybrid devices. I feel like it's just not there yet. And if the thing I wrote about it in the article is that if you're a Windows guy and you've been a little upset about me constantly saying like the world's changing and everything, it's all coming to a close. This device tells me that we just got a 1-year reprieve because Apple doesn't do anything in smaller time chunks than that. They're not going to upgrade this thing again, right, until next year. You know what I mean? So this is it for the next year. This is where the iPad goes for productivity. Well, this plus iOS 11. It's not good enough. It just isn't.
So here's my take on some of that. I have the big one. I have the 13-inch one. What is it? 12.9 or 12, whatever the size is. I think a lot of it is conditioning, right? We're used to a smaller tablet being in our hand and doing this. But once you go to a bigger size and now you're putting a keyboard, the natural thing is having a mouse and having a pointer. I think that's where the disconnect is. Yeah. I don't know if Apple will ever do it, but
see, I actually think they will.
Okay, if they do, that is their transition beyond Mac OS. That's it. Mac OS will be for the pro user, and iOS will be for everybody else. I do think they have to do it, but there are so many moments that I could benefit from having a trackpad. So many moments. And you can't. I don't know if there's a way to... I mean, I'm curious if there's like an app that you could run to do... I don't know. I haven't attempted it. But I have it just calls for it, especially when I'm doing any kind of word processing or I'm doing any kind of multitasking and I want to scroll. Like, I don't want to constantly touch the screen. I want to do it with trackpad. And it makes the most sense. And I think it's because the screen is getting so big where now you're looking at it not as a tablet, but actually as a computer, as a PC.
Sure.
After using that iPad for about 3-4 days, you know what I was doing when I got this Mac? I was touching the freaking screen. And I said to myself...
This is a big problem for these guys.
And I said to myself, oh, shit.
Yep.
I would have loved for this, first time in my life, that I actually said, you know what? I would actually like to do this on the screen. And how long have I been complaining that I don't need a touch screen? Yeah,
you know what? Everyone eventually comes around to that. And it depends on what you do in life. But everyone gets there. And the two things, there's one thing I've been saying forever, which is this. It doesn't matter if you think you're going to need touch. Okay. The presence of touch capabilities in the screen will not impact you if you don't want to use it. You just have to, all you have to do is ignore it. It's fine. Yeah. Don't let the future not happen just because you think you don't want it. You may discover you love it. And that's what people do discover, by the way. Once you have it, you expect it. Yeah. But to speak to the MacBook in particular, MacBook Pro, and to Apple's Pro audience, a big segment of that audience is developers. And one of the things that's really amazing on a Windows 10 PC for developers is that when you develop a touch app, meaning an app for Windows 10, or with Xamarin and Visual Studio, an app that runs on a mobile platform and you're running an emulator on the screen, you can touch it just like you do on the device. And you know what? I know that you could just have a device and you could do it that way, but the ability to do that on the screen, because sometimes you're going to be sans device or in a place where you can't do it. You're going to be on a plane with your laptop or whatever it is. That ability is, I think, transformative, and that's a big part of their audience. But maybe the bigger thing is what you just said, which is that once you have it, you miss it.
Yeah.
And you start, and
First time.
it's particularly goofy on the Windows ecosystem because they're like the laptop Mary Jo uses, the HP Spectre, not the X360, just the gold, the gold and copper one, or the bronze and copper one, whatever it is. It doesn't have touch, right? Because it's that super thin thing. And it's like, I found myself touching that screen all the time, and it was driving me crazy because I'm so used to scrolling around.
Yeah. Interesting. I just thought it was an interesting discussion. Paul, do you have a meeting today?
I did not, but I actually do have to get going.
Okay. Can you give me 5 minutes?
I can give you 5 minutes from now.
Okay, perfect. All right. Time to wrap it up, guys. Go to our website, gfknetwork.com. What's your schedule like, Paul? Anything going on?
My schedule?
Yeah. Anything fake?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be away next week. We're going to the Netherlands for our show.
Can we do a show next week or no?
I don't believe we can,
Okay.
actually. I just got my schedule today, and it is actually pretty jam-packed.
Cool. I will figure it out next week then. For all things Paul, go to Thurrott.com. Brad and you do an unbelievable job on that website. Podcasts every day. You do a podcast with me. You do a podcast with Leo. You're all over the place. Doing so much. Go to our website, jfknetwork.com. Subscribe to the podcast. Also, fund our Patreon, patreon.com/whatthetech. You can go there, fund it there, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.